Welcome to the Hard Won Wisdom Podcast with best-selling author Fawn Germer and corporate innovator Michelle Brigman. Come here weekly for career and life-changing conversations with some of today's most influential thought leaders, senior executives, and trailblazers who will share their mentoring wisdom. This podcast is brought to you by the Women's Leadership Network.
Hi, I'm Fawn Germer.
And I'm Michelle Brigman.
And this is the Hard Won Wisdom Podcast. Today, our guest is Mary Hayes Grieco, who has been on the show before and changed my world with her wisdom and great advice. So we wanted to have her back. She is the expert on forgiveness and has ideas and techniques that go well beyond anything I learned growing up. And I am so glad to have you back, Mary. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. I love your enthusiasm. And I'm also very curious about what really rang for you last time that was so strong for you.
Michelle, how many times have I brought her up?
I know we have talked about it 1,000 times.
My.
Not quite 1,000, but a lot.
A lot.
You know, Mary, it's like, I think for me, when you started talking about how you vent your anger through an inanimate object, I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with this chair right in front of my desk, and I just pretend that that's the person I'm pissed off at, and I let it out, and you
could say, you stupid so-and-so.
I do. It's like everything I would never publicly say to anyone comes out of my mouth, and then when I'm done, I feel great, and I feel like I have lurched forward. Maybe I'm not completely at forgiveness at that moment, but I know I've made a big step toward it. And boy, what a simple, quick fix for anger, frustration, and the inability to say the things that you really want to say, but really don't want to say.
I love it. I love that you're working with your issues out of the moment, in this private way, but you're like not letting something go in there and fester and drive you crazy and ruminate about it. You're like, oh, that made me mad, and just kind of moving it, because I think anger wants to move. It wants us to shout or say or do or work out or make things move along. And I'm glad you're not just sitting on it and letting it fester.
Well, I've even used that being Jewish and listening to Kanye West lately has really been an upsetting thing for me. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and that has been very jarring. So I've had a conversation with Kanye, and we're going to be talking again. He's going to be sitting in the chair.
Oh,
and we'll let him have it.
You've had a symbolic conversation with Kanye.
I have
personally been with Kanye saying, dude, what?
Right.
Yes, put him in the chair.
Yeah. And I think there may be some political figures that are going to be going there too during this nice election season that's beginning again immediately. So, how about you, Michelle?
For me, some of the things I love were like the steps, the clarity around the steps, and that there's a process to it. But like you, the chair has been a game changer. And in fact, it's funny because I actually published my newsletter for December, and I wrote that tactic in there as just a quick, like, what do you do whenever you're in the holidays and you're feeling a little frustrated and you don't want to hurt relationships? So it's just, I love the fact that we're all on this call today.
Yeah,
me too. And that, that tactic isn't original with me. It's been around for a while. It's been used in Gestalt therapy, 40 something years ago, but it's just so very useful. And I think people just need reminders that we can take care of our issues. We can move along and stay on track and on purpose and not let these emotional stories sideline us for very long. And that's why forgiveness is really an everyday life tool. It's for the little things and the big things. And it just makes everything go so much better.
And you have a method for it. It's not just everyone should forgive. I think that was just so incredibly powerful, is the fact that there is a method and process
step by step And it
Yeah.
always works. That's what always blows my mind. It literally always works to dissolve that issue out of your system and move you into a new place. It really is amazing, and I can't take full credit for that either. That was developed by my teacher, who was a psychotherapist for 45 years, and she observed the steps and stages of the healing process. She observed what the psyche needs in order to be done with something, and she put it together in these 8 steps, which she called her recipe, because she was a cook too, but it was her recipe. She says, and when you have a recipe for chili or for brownies that always works, that always comes out good, you get really excited about it. You want to share it with everybody. That's how she felt about her psychological recipe of the 8 steps. It always works. Let's go there. Let's do it.
Before we do a review on those, we do want to make this a little timely because we are in the holiday season, and that is a season where every scab gets ripped off, if there is one, and things can often be not pretty because of the things that shouldn't interfere with the love of a family are pretty constant. So if you can, just give us a little perspective on what we need to do to stay calm and forgiving during the holiday season and why it is an issue.
Well, during the holiday season, we get together with our family members, and some of us don't see a lot of certain family members because we're really different. We don't really get along, or it's hard to have conversations, or there's things that come up. So, but the tradition is it's Thanksgiving, it's the Christmas holidays, the winter holidays. Whatever your particular tradition holidays are in the winter, we're getting together with family. And there's that person who, every time he says that thing, I just want to scream. So I think it behooves us to do what I call preemptive forgiveness, which is to face into what really bugs you about this person or that person before you're with them, like, a week or 2 ahead of time, and do this forgiveness process towards this other personality that's difficult for you. And when you go and see them again, you'll be sitting at the table, and chances are good you are going to feel quite neutral. And they are going to be doing their same old stupid thing that used to bug you so much, but you're going to be like, whatever. It won't make you rise as much because you got all your feelings out about it privately. And you also released your expectations that this person would think like you, that they would understand what's normal and polite and considerate like you. We think that everyone should understand what's basic decency, what's common courtesy, what is normal behavior. We all have these ideas of what we think we know is normal and decent. And not everybody was raised like us, and not everybody gets the same point of view as us. And so sometimes to coexist with certain people, we have to release our expectations that they would understand X, or that they would have this kind of maturity, or they would have this nice quality. Some people are crabby and mean, and we wish they would be kind and polite and considerate. And we can't make them not be crabby and mean, but we can practice our boundaries around them and practice seeing the good in them. Somehow everyone's got some good in them, and it's really a kind of our human challenge is learning how to coexist peacefully with lots of different kinds of people who are different than us.
I think don't you, Michelle, that sometimes the problem is just family ick, like the dysfunction emerging. But I really think in the last decade, we've also seen such, that national polarization and the worldwide polarization come home to roost within our own families, and that people who have different political beliefs that, I have a relative who says racist things. I don't want to be how can you preemptively forgive something like that? I don't know what you do.
Well, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't call it out at least once. it means that you maybe get the full fire of your rage out separately than the dinner table, right? Because people get real scared about anger in a group. You get it out separately. But the next time someone says stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with saying, I really don't like that. That's really untrue and unkind and racist, and I'd rather you didn't talk like that. But you'll say it with an open mind, an open heart, looking at the person and seeing the good in them. And they won't, when they look at you, they're not going to see hate in your eyes. There's a tiny chance they might go, oh yeah, okay, and back off. Tiny chance. Or if it's, if they're kind of willful about it and kind of pushing at you, you say, there you go again. This is not pleasant for me. I think I'm going to excuse myself. I'll see you guys later. I mean, there's different ways of having boundaries, but they don't have to be set by calling another person a name or being hateful or taking it really hard. It's just like, oh, I don't want to be around that. So it's a trick, to experiment with how we be with people that are doing things that we feel are quite wrong. And there's nothing wrong with calling that out, but we can do it with a certain clean clarity and then let it go.
I absolutely love this. I love this example for a couple of reasons. Number one, I love it because normally we show up and we're all of a sudden defending our position because something is happening, let's say at the dinner table. And now I'm playing in this place of where I'm defending my position and I'm digging my heels in. And what you shared, particularly around, this is coming because it happens every time you're together. So that you're predicting it and you're getting ahead of it. I feel like, oh my gosh, you just empowered me to play a much more offensive position where I'm coming in and I can head it off at the pass, right? I'm not reacting to their muck, right? And
right.
The stuff that, again, family systems and family dynamics, the stuff you could write the book of what's going to happen and the script that's going to come up before you ever show up.
They're so different than you. You might as well be from different planets. They don't feel like your spiritual family. They don't feel like you vibe with each other. Like you're thinking, like, oh my God, who are you? Where did you come from? How are these people my family? Sometimes I think, some of us are more emotionally and spiritually mature than some other people in the family. And we can't expect them to have the same kind of understanding we have about everything. It sounds a little arrogant what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. And sometimes we expect some people to be more mature than they can be, than they are, and even just kind of ordinary awkwardness, like someone of the family can barely hear, and it's like really a hard conversation to get grandpa to understand what we're saying, and it's a lot of work. Well, we have to release our expectations that it would be easy, and just get in our hearts and love grandpa a lot and do our best and not have any stress about it. I have a brother-in-law who we couldn't be more different. He's a good person, though. He's a really good heart, good person, but we couldn't be more different if we tried. If we wrote it, we couldn't be more different. He's all about sports and I'm all about spirituality and psychology, and we're just oriented towards different things. So if we're left alone in a room, it's really hard to talk. I'm like, what do we talk about? What do we even talk about? Because you're trying to avoid going down the avenues that might get contentious. Okay. But at one point, I just forgave him for being so different than me that I don't know how to talk to him. I released my expectations that we could ever feel understanding or easygoing with each other. I just let it go. And the next time I saw him, we had kind of a hilarious incident where we sort of acknowledged it, like we didn't really quite know how to talk to each other. And we laughed so hard and we found one thing in common. and we just like worked it. We just worked this one thing in common, which is our favorite song. We both had the same favorite song, and we just like talked about it every time we saw each other. I know, where were you the first time you heard this song? And that's all we knew how to talk about. And it became really silly, you know. And then the next time I saw him, and we looked at each other, we kind of smiled like, "Hi, I'm not talking to you because we already talked about the song, and I got nothing else." It's so funny, you know. So I know that when I see him, there's just goodwill between us now, and we just kind of look at each other, kind of shrug, like, "Hi," you know. And I start reading my book, and he starts cooking or whatever. We don't even try. It's just a way of making peace with each other.
There's something I think that happens with families. I've watched this with my friends and certainly with myself, where you show up at a family get together or just within your immediate family, and you may be a grown woman, but suddenly you're 12 and the child self comes out. Michelle's pointing at herself. So, you know, how do we navigate when that's going on? And that is so common.
Yes. Well, that again is kind of a preemptive thing. You know, you want to do it sometime this year. You want to take some time and go to that memory of being 12 and being treated this way, or being 6 and being treated that way, wherever kind of the root situation is that has the pain and discomfort in it, and do a session, do a forgiveness session about that incident. Very often when I'm working with people one-on-one in my office, and that child piece comes up, we do a little thing where we pretend that we have the child sitting between us, you know, the little one sitting between us. And we talk to that empty chair in front of us as advocates for that child, as like, you know, adults that care and are fiercely defending this child. So I might imagine I have that child self cuddled up next to me, but me, the fierce woman, is looking at the chair going, you know, you really failed her. How dare you have done this to her? She was such a sweetheart. You really should have seen her and appreciated her. You know, I do the anger as an adult on behalf of my child. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
Wow. Michelle,
And then we you know, go on and continue to release the expectations that they would have done any better. And then we imagine that we can open up to the universe, to spirit, to angels, ancestors, advocates in spirit, to bring a healing energy and good parenting, good mentoring, whatever it was, to this child. So sometimes we have to fire our grown-ups of our youth and call for that fatherly energy, that motherly energy to come into our lives in just so much a better way.
Wow. I have a little scenario I'll share, a little real life, because
it happened to her friend Jane.
Yeah, asking for a friend. Now so at the holidays, during the holidays, okay, my family, there are some fierce women in the family. And I'm the youngest of my sister. Well, everybody, I'm the youngest. And but of course, you know, I'm a grown adult and I still get the treatment of the little sisterly jobs. What can the little one do? But in this particular scenario, I was there and I was unexpectedly confronted in the middle of the room from one of my sisters about plans I made on when I was going to leave. That was the scenario, about judgment on what time I was going to leave. And it was selfish of me to leave because my mother's old and it was awful and I needed to be there. And for my own good, I'm going to have regrets later in life because I didn't stay longer. Now, a year ago, I would have handled that where I would have felt a lot of like questioning my decision. But in this situation, I handled it very differently. I did a bit of my relationship with my mom is between my mom and me, and we're in a good place. I'm good. But I am I'm hurt by what happened because it was in public. There were friends that I don't know that were there. Like, I have not released this anger. So I'm curious, like in this scenario, because it hits on, I think, something that people often feel is, yeah, you sort of get blindsided with your family. And when you don't expect it, you didn't have the luxury of the preemptive forgiveness. Now you're in the middle of it. How do you handle it during, and how do you handle it after?
Well, it sounds like you did a nice job during. You set the boundary that said basically, hey, back off. My relationship with my mom is mine.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you could always add on to it later privately. You know, I don't appreciate that you brought that up in front of everybody and you were pretty judgmental. That was hard for me. I didn't like that. You could tell her that. But in a way, it's an opportunity for you because we're all throughout our lifetime growing into new adjustments around our siblings and our birth order and what that means about who we are. As the oldest in my family, I had to get through my former tendencies of being really bossy and people resenting me for that, and we've all named it and we try and laugh about it and we try and grow out of it. As the youngest, you are needing to grow into your power, your full power, your sense of authenticity and authority about yourself. And so if you take the time to do this little bit of forgiveness work, it'll probably take you about half an hour. Think about all the years that have gone into this sister dynamic, decades, right? If you take half an hour and sincerely do those 8 steps towards your sister for embarrassing you in a family group, the next time you see her, you're going to feel so much more calm and strong than before that happened. It's in a way it was an invitation to you to grow up a little more in the group. Do you
I love that. The invitation
like that?
to grow up a little bit more. Play a different role.
In Michelle's condensed version of what happened over the holiday, we should discuss the cake, because that is a great example of how our siblings or our relatives can just push that one last button to set us off. I mean, tell that, and then because this happens all the time.
So I was going through the list of, let me confirm this is what I'm to bring, because I was staying with my mom and I was helping my mom. This is what I'm confirmed to bring for Thanksgiving dinner. And I rattled through the list, and one of the things that I was told that I was supposed to bring was a cake. So when I said the cake, my sister, who was the host, who hosted everybody, she said, "Why are you bringing a cake? We don't need a cake. Do not bring a cake." I'm like, great. One less thing I need to worry about. When I show up on Thursday and I'm unloading everything, where's the cake?
The same sister said that?
Yes. I went,
is she a Gemini? Let's,
I said, there is no cake. And she goes, well, you were supposed to bring a cake. And I went, as a matter of fact, when I asked you about the cake, you said, do not bring a cake. And she's like, that is not what happened. And my niece, her daughter, pipes up and said, oh, Mom, you made it real clear to not bring the cake. Well, that's not how I remember it. But that was a great moment of.
But does this sister have a habit of liking to make you wrong? Has this happened in other ways, or is this kind of an anomaly?
No, like I say, we're pretty headstrong. Everybody has their opinion of how things need to be done. So this is not uncommon from, I would say, the whole family dynamic. Don't let me sit here and act like I don't have my own issues, because I certainly do. But this is a typical, but it was just like unexpected.
So did you move forward from that moment pretty well, or did you worry about it?
No, I didn't worry about it at all. I was like,
good.
Cake. I didn't bring a cake.
Good. That's a great example. I mean, you
Well,
could keep
okay,
that
now
in your
hang on a
pocket.
minute. She
You can
didn't
keep that
worry
in your
about it.
pocket for future interactions with her. It's like, yeah, sometimes you're wrong, and that's okay.
No, it made you more mad than that. I mean,
What was the compilation of? There were about 10 examples just like that happened over a total of maybe 7 hours that we spent together over a couple of days. It just was a repeated thing, so it just piled on.
but I think that is such a great example because that happens in so many homes then. And what was interesting with this one, because Michelle is usually, she's far more mature than I am. Let's just say that. But by the time she came back from that trip, she's up to here with the sister thing.
Yeah.
And then not
You
only
were
that,
stressed.
yeah, but not only that, her kids don't want to go back.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that's a big deal. So,
well, were they having their own like weird encounters with
Yes.
everybody, or were they just looking at your stress?
They were having their own weird encounters.
Ah, yeah.
So yeah. So my question was like, what relationship do you want to have? Because the way this thing went down was not a relationship that was like, oh great, can't wait till Christmas rolls around.
well, what's your sister's favorite song? Maybe you can start there.
Well, I mean, you find the common ground. Find the common ground where it is. Maybe you both like the flowers. Maybe you both, I don't know. You can admire.
We're not lacking of things in common. I mean, my sister's awesome.
That's good.
We just,
well, I always say our families are ours for a lifetime. They're a part of our classroom. It's part of what's like kind of hardwired into this lifetime is this collection, this family system, these particular individuals, the shared story. That's all just part of like the lab that we're in, and so you can't just all the way distance from them, and you can't all the way be in there with them. There's some kind of a awkward finding your way dance that teaches us a lot about ourselves, right? And this whole pathway of unconditional love and forgiveness is our best friend in terms of dealing with turning these encounters into something somewhat healing and fruitful, for understanding who we are and who our real people are and who aren't. And a lot of people can look through a sibling group and they say you come from a family of 4 sibs, and there's one that you kind of get each other, and the other 2 you're like, I don't know about you. That happens to so many people. And so it's confusing because we have the same bloodline and DNA and we look alike, and we keep thinking we should be thinking more alike than this because look at it, we're alike, but we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because I attribute it to the life of the soul. I think there are souls that are mature, and there are old souls, and there are teenage souls and little baby souls, and they have different capacities for acceptance and truth-telling and love. And people have such different capacities, and it's confusing when you look at your biological family and you think we should all be the same. But you're not. And there's kind of a different invisible spectrum of similarity and difference going on with people. And we all have the experience of meeting our best friends or being in a group of women that feel like family. They feel like you get me. You get me deeply. You get me widely. You get me. I trust you. I feel safe with you. I'm overjoyed to be with you. No time has passed when I see you. We're just in it. That's your spiritual family. And I think we all need to be clear that we need that sense of tribe, but sometimes it's not exactly our biological tribe that is going to really make our hearts sing and make us feel safe. But our biological tribe is important. It's important. We have to figure out, we have to navigate them sometimes.
What was weird was all those many holidays where I would go home and, my brother and I had a famously horrendous relationship. And if I told that story, you would say, oh, you are a saint. And I'm sure if he told it, people would say that about him. I don't know. But it was a difficult story, and it was one where we were not close in any way. And it was very stressful on our parents. And then our parents died. And they died very close together, a couple of months apart. And then we began fixing it. And it did not take long to arrive at total unconditional forgiveness and love. And
Wow.
and what I can't figure out is, and that I think is a sad thing, is that we couldn't have done that while our parents were alive, because then it would have been nice for everybody. But how grateful I am for that right now. I mean, my brother is one of my best friends, and
That's amazing, Fawn.
yeah. But is there a way to accelerate it? I always tell people, it's like the family dysfunction, it's not worth it, because, I mean, what I found with my brother, he's the only one who knows the whole story. He knew my parents. He knows, I can say one word and he'll know what I'm talking about. And that, I want to tell other people, you don't have to hate that person. But I don't know. Is it just always a long path like that, or is there a way to accelerate it?
I don't know. I mean, I think if you were to accelerate it, both people would have to be in on it. Both people would have had to agree, you know what, let's be closer. Let's do whatever. Let's
Figure it
put
out.
down those old things and let's find out about each other. Both people have to have their will in it. And it sounds like your brother did.
Yeah.
Like you both had the will to do that. Once there's the will, there's the way. You said it didn't take long.
No.
It didn't take long at all, because you were both ready. And who knows why? I don't know. I think when our parents die, when our parents leave the earth, is such a significant time. And so much happens then in sibling groups. People come closer, people go farther, people break up, people secrets come out, all sorts of things happen when our parents leave. And maybe you and your brother just needed to wait till they left to do this. We don't know why. Maybe, I don't know. I really don't know. But I believe that there's this kind of continuum in space and time between souls that means something to each other. And my belief would be that your parents' souls, wherever they are smiling about that. They're smiling that you and your brother,
yeah, I'm sure they are,
became closer. Yeah, that they know they got it, and that time that they were alive and this wasn't happening is like a speck, a speck of dust that means nothing. In the fullness of time, your whole family group has got this love thing, happening.
Well, and I don't tell that story because I'm talking about, my stuff. I'm telling it because I know so many people who are still stuck in that and don't want to go home for the holidays, or won't go home for the holidays, or know when they're going home for the holidays, it is going to be more blood and guts.
Buckle up, because it's going to be a ride.
And so is that then, just finding the cause and saying we have to work on this, or is it just it happens when it happens?
I think it happens when it happens, especially if both people are willing. But even if one person really does the work of letting go of the old stories and opening up their hearts and extending unconditional love, even privately, from their room to that person out there, I think the dance starts to shift. I think the other person on some level gets it. I've heard so many stories from people who came back and said, oh, I forgave my sister, my horrible, awful sister. And the next time I saw her, she was so nice. I don't get it. Why? And I didn't tell her that I forgave her. But on some level, her sending that love to her sister in a real pure way touched her. I don't know how this works, but I've heard so many stories where people call me up and say, guess what? My mother called me. She hasn't called me in 2 years. She was mad on the day that you and I did the forgiveness work, and I let it go and I sent her love. She called me that night and said, oh, I'm sorry, we haven't been talking. It's really interesting how the stories that come back to me that show that we're so connected. So I don't know.
That's very interesting. Well,
yeah.
Michelle, do you have any other questions before we ask her to give them a holiday wrap up?
Yes. No, I don't have other questions. I'm anxious for the kind of the 8 steps and that holiday wrap, because I think that would be important.
Maybe we should just sort of journey through the 8 steps as a whole, and kind of give people the picture of that, the mental picture of that arc of healing. And I just want to invite people who are interested and curious and really getting into this. Plenty of information on forgivenesstraining.com, my website. You can go to forgivenesstraining.com and learn all about it. There's lots of information there for free. And also the podcast, Rise and Thrive Show. If you go to riseandthriveshow.com or put in Rise and Thrive Show on your podcast source, lots of half an hour shows that go into each of the 8 steps in depth. So it's really easy to learn this method. I've made it as easy as I possibly could. And I hope people will take me up on it and say, okay, I'm going to become a forgiveness student. Here I go.
Definitely. And your book is fabulous too.
Yes, it is.
Oh, thank you. Unconditional Forgiveness, a simple and proven method to forgive everyone and everything. You can get that where you get books. Yeah. So yes, thank you. I'm glad you liked my book.
Love your book.
Thank you. So the book explains the why and the how and the what is and what isn't about forgiveness. It delineates the 8-step method of forgiving others. It also delineates how you forgive yourself, and even how you forgive God or life, like the kind of a bigger sort of meta forgiveness when you just kind of hate everything. So there's a chapter on each of those, and it's really pretty reader friendly, I'm told. Talk about heavy, painful things, but not in a heavy, painful way. And it is based on the work of my teacher that I have then refined. And I'm just going to describe it like a story, because this is the story of how you heal, the story of how you heal something, okay? So you're hurt, you're disappointed about something, and it's making you lose sleep, and you're ruminating, and you're tense, and you've got a pain in your shoulder, and you're tired of it, and you've decided, I've suffered long enough. So you say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to forgive this. You take a little bit of preparation time, maybe say a prayer on it, maybe tell your best friend, you know what, I'm going to do this forgiveness thing towards my brother or whoever it is. And you get support. Okay. And then you take some private time. It's going to be between half an hour and 2 hours. And you have your box of Kleenex nearby. And if you're really mad, you want something you can kick or punch. And you put that empty chair out in front of you. Okay. And then you lean in to this. Step 1. All right, I will forgive you. You use your will. I will let this go. I will move on. I am getting over this today. I am doing this. I'm letting this go. And step 2, here's my feelings about what you did or what you didn't do. I hate you because I am heartbroken because you are such a stupid idiot when you X. I wish you would never do this again. I could have wrung your neck when you did this. I can't believe you think that. You speak the language of emotion, which is not fair, and it's not spiritual. It's not understanding or compassion. It's like, you suck. I hate you. Right. It's like, right? It's emotional language. Do it. It's in your. It's not in your head. It's in your throat. It's in your heart. It's in your belly. You want to speak from your throat, your heart, and your belly to get that out. Usually it's like 10 to 20 minutes at the most. For big issues, it's 20 minutes. For smaller ones, it's less. It doesn't take that long. You let it out. And then you feel like, okay, so now what? And you have the sense of like, now what? You move to the level of mind where you are harboring a few stuck expectations. And you start loosening up and turning them into preferences, like wishes, not like shoulds. So you break it down into parts. Maybe it's 3 things. I really would prefer that you had been consistent with me and that you remembered what our conversation was. But you didn't. And I'm going to let that go. I now release my expectation. that you had remembered the conversation correctly. You pause and just imagine that one expectation melting out of your system. And then you go to the next one. And I would really prefer that you had not, put me down in the way you said this, blah, 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 blah. I wish you had been respectful and easygoing, but you weren't. I release my expectation that you were respectful and easygoing. You go inside and let that go. So you kind of break it down into its pieces. You let each one of them go. It's kind of like flossing your teeth. You have to get into the details. You can't just go, oh, I forgive you. No, it's this and this and this and this. These 3 or 4 things that I'm letting go of. You let go of that, and then you go, and you restore your boundary. I give you full responsibility for how you act. And I only have responsibility for me. And you imagine a nice bubble of your personal space around you, a nice bubble of light that is just you. It has no one else in it. It's just you and how you believe and act and your values and your energy. So you have like kind of put those person's actions out of your space and out of your mind, and you're just cleaning up your personal space. And then you open up to life in a new way. So you literally like open up that chest and lift your chin up to the horizon and reach to the universe, to God, to your soul, however you want to look at it. Say, hey, and I open up to let this go and get everything I need. From now on, I open up for your help. Please help me. Thank you so much. You open that up, and then you imagine a source of healing light above your head that you call down, loving energy, loving light and energy. Call it down. Imagine it comes through the top of your head like a skylight, and it comes down and gives you a nice shower of clean, fresh, new, loving energy. You bring that through your whole self, and then you go to the next step and send it out to that other person. Just imagine you can send that love and light and blessing from a higher source out to this brother or sister, whoever you're forgiving. Imagine bathing them in light and telling them, I send you goodwill, or I send you my love. I send you best wishes, some kind of little blessing. And I release you to be yourself. And I release me from you. Yay. I'm releasing us from each other. And then you take a moment to see the good in that person. See what's good about them. Oh, they really care a lot. Oh, that they are very funny sometimes. They make amazing onion soup. Whatever you have to come up with, big or small. You see the good in that person. And that's where you keep your mind in the future. When you see that person, when I see my brother-in-law, I remember we have the same favorite song. That's all we got. Hi, I know that song. That's all we got. That's okay. You do whatever oh, wow, that person looks great in red, Oh, that person is so nice to their dog. That person is always prompt. They're always on time. That is really cool. I'm never on time. That's really cool. You find something to see the good in that person. And that's what you think about next time you think about them. That's the story. That's the journey through working an issue out of your system so it's no longer in there, and you can approach your next encounter with people in a fresh page way.
It's just so powerful because it releases it just releases the burden and baggage that we carry within ourselves for things that, frankly, we don't have control over. We don't have control over the people. Yeah. We don't have control over how they react. And I think it's such a freeing method. And I'm just grateful that you've shared this with our listeners, because
I'm so glad, Michelle. I'm so glad that you get it and you're enthused about it. Because for me, it's a lifelong friend. I've been doing this now since 1986, whatever that is. It's over 30 years. Yeah. Teaching it since 1989 in the workshop. And it's still fresh. It's still amazing. And I still go to it when I need to. It's really a lifelong path and friend.
I was messaging Michelle when you were talking, like, how great you are. I just really, which, I have one final question, and it's very important. So, what's the song?
Okay. Bye bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Yeah,
Oh,
Love
that's
it.
good. That's a great song. I was
that would be it. We
scared it
ended
was
up
gonna be
singing it
like,
to each other. We were singing it to each other like
Awesome.
gusto. And at the end of it, he says, Mayor, we found something to talk about. No one can ever take this away from us.
I
Not only
love
talk,
that.
you were singing. But I mean, honestly, what a gift you have given our listeners
Yeah.
and us
And
again.
us,
for
$1 million
the
worth of free
holidays.
therapy.
This is our holiday gift, is forgiveness. And I just really encourage everyone to go get the book because it's so good and practical. And you will walk away with tangible steps, not theories, not concepts. You will change your life following the steps. So thank you so much for being here. And once again, sharing all your great wisdom with us.
Oh,
And-
thank you. I hope to see you in person one day. Maybe one
Yeah.
day we'll have a
We would
room
love-
full of people and we'll do a big fat workshop
We
and
need to do
have
that.
a lot of healing
Oh,
happen.
that would be fun.
Wouldn't it be great?
Yeah, and which you sent them to a different website than the one that's your name. What's the one you're sending them to? Unconditional forgiveness.
Forgiveness training.
Forgiveness training. Yeah,
Forgiveness training, all one word, forgivennesstraining.com. And they'll find lots of information there. And the book is Unconditional Forgiveness, a simple and proven method to forgive everyone and everything. And it is likely I'm going to do a public workshop here in the Twin Cities early winter, maybe towards the end of January. So if people feel like, yes, they're really dying to come to Minnesota in January, oh, you must really be hurting. You
Coldest
should
I've
come.
ever been was at a funeral in Minnesota in the winter. It was awful.
You might need to come down here to Florida and do
I
that
know.
one.
We get
I
you
think we
somewhere
should have a
sunny.
nice, warm, sunny women's or everybody workshop in Florida, and I'll
I'm-
come teach and we'll rock it.
All
Yeah.
for it.
Oh,
But
wow.
we do wish all of our listeners the best holiday ever with just smooth roads, happy times, forgiveness.
Lots of love, lots of
Yes.
unconditional love, especially for yourself.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Really, really cherish yourself in these holiday times, and remember that's what it's about.
Absolutely. So everybody,
Thank you
thank you
so
for listening and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for joining the Hard Won Wisdom podcast with best-selling author Fawn Germer and corporate innovator Michelle Brigman. Join us weekly for career and life-changing conversations with some of today's most influential thought leaders, senior executives, and trailblazers who will share their mentoring wisdom. This podcast is brought to you by the Women's Leadership Network. Visit hardwonwisdom.com for more on this podcast and for links to Fawn and Michelle's web pages and social media. Also, be sure to rate, subscribe, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort, and we'll see you next week.